Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And first of all, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. And if you're not, I hope I can make it a little bit better guys. So for today, I'm gonna be giving you part 15 of What If Naruto Was a Direct Descendant of the Sage. Remember to get this one to 200 likes as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also, stay in tune. I'm gonna be posting a new episode over on Anime King 2 and Anime King 3 today guys for you guys to enjoy. So stay tuned for all of the what ifs coming your way and I hope you enjoy each and every one of them. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you're hearing my voice, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new, I'll be replying talking about to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, Naruto and Fu were surrounded. Reason being, Naruto looked like Minato Namikaze. And the Stone Ninjas didn't really like that. Yes, they didn't really like that at all. So they wanted to start something with Naruto and Fu, as they didn't understand what they were messing with. As they came after Naruto, he disassembled each and every one of them, knocking them down. None of them stand an absolute chance against him, as he noticed that he was also being watched. After subduing them, he made his way along with Fu, where they met a man. His name was Roshi. Roshi asked him what his two Jinjulkis doing here, surprising Naruto and Fu. The man was a Jinjulki as well. But Roshi couldn't get a good read on Naruto. He knew that Fu was the seven-tailed host, but what exactly was Naruto? Roshi decided to find out, as the both of them connected, including Fu, as they bumped fists together. That brought them to the White Plain. Ram was there and every other Bijus as well, as Roshi was surprised, as Naruto spoke to them all, as Komi, the seventh tail, Manatabe, Shikaku, they all gave Naruto a bow, as Son Goku wouldn't bow though, but he decided to put his trust in Naruto, as Kurama simply shrugged it off. ICB was still sleeping, for what reason Naruto did not know why, as he hadn't even woke up yet. Seems like that Genjutsu really messed with his mind. After exiting that state, as Naruto spoke to Roshi, as he told Roshi what happened. Roshi hearing that had an idea. He wanted Naruto to remove this four tails from him. He didn't have a problem with four tails, but as he realized that soon enough, another member of the Hidden Stone was going to get the four tails, as he didn't want someone to go through that suffering as well. So with that, Naruto ended up removing and sealed it within himself, but he never took precautions, as when the standby was integrated in the system, it was never fully integrated. Making his way with Fu after saying goodbye to Roshi, Naruto suddenly fell down. Inside the seal, Naruto was getting sink underwater, as all of the Bijus was trying to rescue him. The bars were getting weak. Kurama scoffed, as if the kid died, he would have to reform and it would take too long. Him being the strongest, as he reached out his tail, it was being electrocuted, seeing that he was pushing it past the steel bars. But he never grunted in pain or anything, as he simply tapped Naruto on his forehead with his tail, flooding his body with something. In the real world, Naruto exploded out of force from his body, blowing back Kurosaki that had came there to see what was going on. As Naruto woke up, he quickly apologized to her, as she found herself blushing just looking at him, as he was so sincere and nice. As showing kindness in the Hidden Stone was kind of weakness, but he wasn't saying that because he thinks she was weak, he was just nice, and that caught her off guard. The group had to go on the patrol though, as he left Naruto and Fu behind. Fu then told Naruto that she wanted to find Tsunade Fasani, as Kurosaki had told her that the woman was around these parts. So yeah guys, that was basically as we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check for yourself. So what is the beginning of this new episode? Naruto, I would like to find Tsunade Fasani. Wait, what? Say Naruto. Kurosaki mentioned she was in the area, I would like to find her and ask her for training. Naruto blinked. Fu took that as a sign to elaborate. After all, she just sprang this out of the blue. When you were lying there, unconscious, She looked down. I felt so useless. There was nothing I could do to help you, she said. She looked back up. And I don't want to feel that way ever again. So I want to find Tsunade and ask her to train me. Naruto nodded. Unexpectedly, Fu was pulled into a warm hug. I understand. Fu was shocked. While a warm person, Naruto was never the one to initiate first contact with her. She wrapped her own arms around his back as he rubbed slow circles on hers gently. I felt the same way with Shizuku, helpless, weak, unable to do anything while she bleed out in my arms. Fu was surprised. Naruto didn't spoke much about Shizuku since he died. She never knew that Naruto watched her died. But why Tsunade? He broke away from her, much to Fu's disappointment. Fu nodded as she started to walk again, her head down in thought. If I am to learn medical ninjutsu, then I should try to learn from the best there is. Naruto sighed at that. It made sense, but it didn't ease all his concern that much. Tsunade was a Konoha shinobi, and as much as he has made peace with the past of the village, and Tsunade hadn't even stepped foot in the village even when he was there, he was still wary. I suppose you're right, said Naruto. But how are we supposed to find her? And how do you intend to convince her to train you? I doubt she's gonna say yes right away, said Naruto. Fu paused for a moment. She was never really considering that. She just was thinking to find her and ask her for training. How far does your ability to sense through water vapor go? Asked Fu. Well, when I stand still, about 250 meters. But when I do it as a pulse, about a kilometer. The farther away the signature is that I'm searching for, the more blurry and static it comes. Fu nodded as she increased her pace. Then we can use that to find the largest chakra signature in any town we pass through. As a Sanin, she would be the most powerful in the era. Naruto shrugged at the knowledge. Well, it was sound, but for them to be in the same era as Tsunade was very slim. For all they knew, she had already left the country. And how do you plan on getting her to train you? Fu paused as she frowned. This was probably the most, emotions Naruto had seen in a long time on Fu's face. I will deal with that when and if it comes, she said. As Naruto saw an excited smile come across Fu's features as they made their way. Time skip. A week passed searching for Tsunade as they went from town to town. Fu bought a small map as they crossed out towns along they went. It wasn't efficient, seeing that Tsunade could go back to a village that he already passed, and she could already leave the entire place already. So far they have visited 11 towns already. Only long enough for Naruto to shop what they needed and try to find Tsunade. So here they were in the 12th town, as they were climbing up a hill. At this point Naruto didn't have a lot of hope for finding Tsunade, although he got a lot of practice done with her manipulation in their travels. He was sure that he would be moved on to the next stage very soon. That involved him punching through a boulder, making his hand go through it, and then pulling back out of the boulder, not being marked at all. Stopping on top of the hill, Naruto went through hand signs to focus his chakra as he released a burst. There was a moment of delay as everything came rushing back to him. He shook his head. I don't think I'm ever gonna get used to that. Fu just stood to one side. In this past week she had been, excited to find Tsunade, but that was slowly dropping, given their many failed attempts. Why not have a shadow clone do it instead, asked Fu. As Naruto stood there, he already pinpointed the largest chakra. It was somewhere in the south area. I will still get the mental feedback, just delay, said Naruto, as the group started to walk once again. Then could you not use a different kind of clone, Fu asked. Naruto shook his head as they entered a gambling era. I don't know any elemental clones, and even if I did, there's only a fraction of the power that come from the original. I suppose a water clone might be able to perform the technique though, but that strain might dispel it when it returns. Here, said Naruto, as he stopped towards the gambling den, as this place was reeking of alcohol. Gambling was bad enough without adding alcohol into the mix. He couldn't imagine Tsunade of the Sanin would be in a place like this. He was about to leave when Fu simply walked in. Oh, you too, no kids allowed. Naruto heard when he came in, as a man was pointing at the sign, no minors. Behind him was a corridor that had many doors, leading off to many gambling rooms. As Naruto heard dice rattling in cups. Also, shouts of defeat and shouts of joy. Chohan was a simple game, as he would place a couple dice in a cup and then shake it before slamming it down. And the players would pick even Cho, Odd, or Han. Despite it technically being frowned upon, the monks used to play it back at the temple to see who would be, doing the chores for the weeks. After a while, Naruto was banned from playing because he was too lucky at the game. After complaining to the master, the man simply told him that he would be lazy if he didn't have any chores to do. Seeing that Naruto was already winning, all of his chores were being passed off. The master was probably sore from losing. That was what Naruto thought. Excuse me, we aren't here to gamble. We're looking for somebody. The man looked at them with a bored look on his face. He obviously believed they didn't have any money on them, so talking to them was pointless. Sorry, can't give out the customer's name. No, beat it, kids. Naruto frowned. This close he could feel the chakra signature through the water vapor through the air, and he could make out the shape of a woman. That didn't necessarily mean anything, but he didn't want to walk away without checking first. He nodded as he led Fu out. They sat down on a bench outside, waiting for the woman to come. Hey Fu. Fu looked up as she was thinking this would cut into her travel time if this was Tsunade they were waiting for. Yes, she said. I had a thought. Do you know what Tsunade looked like? Fu blinked as she hung her head low. In fact, she did not know what the legendary medic looked like. They sat there for a few hours, mostly in silence as Naruto tried to brighten Fu back up. But the conversations turned awkward when Fu didn't say anything else. After a few hours though, he felt the chakra signature leaving. As they saw, it was a tall, blonde-haired woman. Her hair was a bit lighter than his. It was tied up in two ponytails. She wore a small green haori with Gambler written on the back in the kanji, and navy pants that matched the color of her obi on her waist. As Fu was currently looking at the woman's chest before looking back at hers, Naruto quickly got up as he rushed to catch the woman as she turned off into the next street. Fu broke out of her jealousy shock and catch up as well. Excuse me. The woman paused. There was also someone else next to her as she turned as well. She was shorter, thinner, about in her 20s with dark hair, and she was wearing a small pig that was wearing a haori. Yeah? What do you want, kid? The blonde, she slurred her tone. She was probably drunk, as Naruto could smell the alcohol. You wouldn't happen to be Tsunade, one of the legendary Sanin, would you? Naruto really hoped that this was not Tsunade, as he would be rather disappointed to find out that the legendary medic was this junk gambler. And what if I am, brat? We got no business unless those cowardly debt collectors have started sending little monks to do their dirty work. Naruto said that, correction, he hoped this drunken, in-debt gambler was not Tsunade Senju. I am not here because of any debts. I am merely seeking Tsunade out because my friend wants to talk to her. As Tsunade glanced towards Fu, she then glanced back to Shizune. Hey, look Shizune, isn't that cute? A little fangirl wanted to see me. She returned her focus to Fu, as Fu wasn't sure what to think to this woman in front of her. So what do you want, to autograph or something? As Naruto raised eyebrows, he wondered if this was really Tsunade or some drunken woman trying to play them. So you really Tsunade Senju? The woman turned and glared at him. The one and only, she said, as she did a pose, practically shoving her chest into his face. It was moments like these he was glad to be a monk, so he could remain, well, focused at the inappropriate display. The woman behind Tsunade, Shizune if he heard right, groaned. Fu coughed in her hand lightly, and all attention was once again back on her. Excuse me, Tsunade-sama. I would like for you to train me in medical ninjutsu. There was a moment of silence before Tsunade burst out into laughter. Ha! Nice one, kid. Me. Train a brat like you. As if I already have Shizune here. As she grabbed Shizune in a one-arm hug that had Shizune's face pressed in her chest. Not that Tsunade seemed to notice in the slightest. Naruto frowned as the light left Fu's eyes. He didn't want her to go back in that state. Lifelessness, expressionless. Searching for Tsunade gave her a reason to go on. Motivation and purposeness. He couldn't bear to see that light extinguish. If it's a question of compensation, I assure you I can pay anything. Fu looked up at Naruto, surprised in her face. She knew they didn't have much, as they just get by town to town. So if he was offering that, he was going to create money, breaking his own rule to help her. She felt touched, but the mood was broken as Tsunade snorted. Yeah, even if I was to believe that a pipsqueak monk like you had the money to catch my attention, that's not the point. Her face then got a bit serious, but her eyes still seem a bit unfocused. Being a Mid-Nin take years of hard work and dedication. I don't have time to sit around teaching a brat. And if you don't have the control for it, the teaching won't mean anything. She took a quick look up and down at Fu. And I doubt you do, she said, as Naruto gripped tighter in Shakijo. Then why not give her a chance to prove herself? Tsunade turned towards him, her face set in a frown. These kids don't see and know when they saw it, right? Look, brat, like I said, I don't have time to do this crap. I have better things to do. Naruto raised the eyebrow and glancing towards the gambling shop. As he turned back towards her, it impressed Tsunade that he could actually keep eye contact with her. Many man, I would have been lower right now. You mean drinking and gambling away your money? Tsunade straightened up. Exactly. Now beat it, brat. As she turned, only to find Naruto still in front of her. Tsunade wondered if she was losing it. Was she that drunk? Even Shizune gasped a bit. She did not see him move, he just appeared. We could simply follow you until you decide to help us. I assure you, as a monk, I honestly have nothing better to do. I said beat it, brat. Or do I have to deal with you? Myself. Naruto smiled. Of course, he said. Carry on then. Tsunade puffed as she walked past the boy. Shizune gave them an apologetic smile as she went after her master. When she saw the look on Tsunade's face, she sighed. She knew that look. The next person that pissed off Tsunade, it wasn't going to end well. Tsunade-sama, are you sure it was best to simply leave it like that? They're just brats. By the morning, they will give up on this. Come on, I lost my buzz. Let's get another drink. Time skip. Tsunade groaned as she woke up next morning with a hangover. But, unfortunately for other drinkers, Tsunade had a cure. Just a simply glowing palm right to her forehead and she'll be fine. She turned and she saw Shizune had put her clothes out for her in a crisp, neat pile. As she got dressed. Once dressed, she stretched out as there was an ache in her back. Having such a huge chest size had disadvantage as well. As she opened the hotel door, only to see blonde spiky hair. Ah, Tsunade-sama, you're up, said Naruto as he was there, sipping some tea. Care for a cup of tea, he asked. Time skip. A few days later, Tsunade was pissed off. She wasn't able to enjoy her steak for the past few days now. The reason for that was sitting across from her as he sipped on his tea slowly. Naruto and Fu has been following Shizune and Tsunade for the past few days, and it was becoming unbearable for Tsunade. At first, she simply ignored them, hoping that they would give up and allow her to drink. But she quickly realized that wouldn't be happening anytime soon. He was right, he was a monk. He said he didn't have anywhere to go, he could just follow them. She then tried to sneak away, but he always found her. She didn't know how he did it, but he always did. When she went drinking, they would be there. When she woke up and stepped out of her hotel room, they would be there. When she left the gambling dens, they would be there. It was getting to the point where she wanted to rip one of her ponytail out of pure frustration. She couldn't even leave them when they went to new towns. They were always behind her. Even running as fast didn't help, as they would catch up to her. She sat there, holding the saucer in her hand, glaring at the blonde. She kept on trying to burn a hole through his skull with her gaze, as he calmly sipped his tea. It has been 5 days. She couldn't take it anymore. She got up and slammed the bottle on the table. Alright, brat, listen up. I'm only gonna say this once. As Naruto calmly placed on his tea. I'll give the girl one chance. One chance, and when you fail, you leave me and Shizune alone for good. Deal? Naruto smiles he stood up, patting Fu on the back as he smiled snappy. Deal. And when she succeeds, you agree to take her on as a student. Tsunade mumbled something under her breath. A lot of curse word mixed between, but there was a yes as well. Shizune. Shizune pulled out a scroll and gave it to Tsunade. This is a chakra control exercise that is mandatory for all minions to know. If your friend can master it within 2 days, that will be the time we'll still be in this town. Then I'll take her on as my official student. If she can't do it, then don't bother looking for us, and just let us leave. Tsunade extended her hand. As Naruto took it, she squeezed a bit, well, tighter than he expected, but he simply shook it with a smile, as he took the scroll and left with Fu. As soon as they left, Tsunade leaned down, as she flopped down in her seat. Tsunade-sama, what is this, Shizune? Was it really right to do that? You know the girl won't be performed. It's an advanced chakra control exercise. Even I couldn't do it well into my training. Tsunade simply huffed as she rested her head down. Don't worry about it, Shizune. She would give up when she realized it isn't possible, and then the brats will leave us alone. But Tsunade-sama, why are you so opposed to taking a student? Perhaps it will be a good thing to help take your mind off the past. What are you talking about, Shizune? I have you. I don't need anything else. Shizune smiled sadly at that, as she took a sip from her saucer. I can't be the only thing you have in the world, Tsunade-sama. Maybe. You should just give them a chance. Tsunade puffed as she returned her head down, glaring at the wall. What's gone into you, Shizune? As Shizune simply looked down. As Shizune remembered something, Naruto was currently breaking a pebble in his hand, as he was working on his chakra control exercise for their manipulation. As he stopped, as he went towards the door and opened it, Shizune was standing there and she was about to knock. She was surprised at first, but she collected herself and gave him a pleasant smile. Hello, Shizune-san. Can I help you? Shizune gave him a nod, as Naruto invited her in and she sat on the couch. I know you and Tsunade-sama have gotten off on a bad start, but I came here to help you understand. She has gone through a lot in her life. The loss of her lover, my Uncle Dan, and her brother Nawaki. When your friend asked her for training, I'm sure it brought up many bad memories in her life in Konoha. I assure you she's a very kind woman. And Naruto raised a hand, stopping her. Why are you telling me this? He asked. She blinked. Well, I just want to... She frowned as Naruto held up his hand once again, stopping her mid-sentence. No, why are you telling me this? Said Naruto. Why does Tsunade-san not come herself and speak to me? She's naturally stubborn. She won't take anything that she doesn't want to. I see, so it's her stubborn nature that prevents her from moving past the deaths of her loved ones. That isn't what I meant. Anyone with such a tragic past would naturally want to cling to the memories of those they care about. I understand that, believe me, I do. But perhaps you should remind Tsunade by wallowing in her guilt. She's doing no favors to those she cares about. Fu came to her for the very same reason, as she don't want to stand there while she see anyone she cares about die. Shizune frowned as she remembered Tsunade describing how she couldn't save Dan, even though she was right there by his side. Medical ninjutsu cannot save everyone. There are some wounds that are just too hard to heal. Naruto had a feeling that she wasn't talking about normal, physical injuries anymore. No, perhaps not. But wouldn't you feel better knowing that you did everything in your power to try and save somebody? Wouldn't you feel better to know that there was nothing you could personally done to prevent it? To have that kind of closure would be a tremendous help. It was then that Shizune saw his usual smile, saddened. Have you lost somebody, Naruto? She asked. But then, it was gone, that sad smile, as his face returned back normal. I've lost many people, but I've taken solitude to those I still have left. His eyes glanced across the room, as Fu was asleep, covered by the blankets. Perhaps it's time for Tsunade-sama to do the same, as that left Shizune in deep thought. End of flashback. Damn it! As Naruto looked over his scroll, Fu was rather frustrated, as she tossed a senbon. Well, not looking where she was tossing it, as Naruto saw the thing embedded into a tree, rather deeply. She was not one to show emotion like this, especially anger. Well, Naruto supposed he would have been the same way, if he was dunked in freezing water. Well, so much time in only a few hours. The chakra controlling exercise, as far as he could see from what Fu was doing, involved balancing in the senbon. Technically, you were supposed to start with kunai, but Fu didn't have time for that, so she jumped to the last stage. She was supposed to balance in the senbon on top of a water source. 10 Shire clones work alongside her, as they were also soaking as well. The problem wasn't balancing. Fu could do that in her sleep. The problem was she had to focus her chakra through the senbon and focus it to keep on top of the water as well. From that, it was a testament skill to see and feel out the chakra when it left your body. But at the rate that Fu was progressing, it didn't seem like she was going to be finished in 2 days. This would have been completely useless to Fujin Julkis, but given that Fu was trained her entire life, she was forced to, by the way, so she could control her chakra quite well. As Fu fell into the water once again along with her clones, by the time they dragged themselves back to dry land, the others were still falling down the water as Fu panted. Her reserves were still full, but focusing at that, well, level was mentally draining. Here, she looked up as she saw Naruto with a cup of steaming tea. She sat up and she took it quickly, as it warmed her body. She thanked him. But she was becoming warm too quick as she felt Naruto on her shoulder. The water in her clothes were evaporating. At her questioning look, Naruto simply smiled. It's just a thin layer of fire chakra. I can teach you the trick later if you like. Fu simply nodded as she looked back towards the lake, where clouds were falling in. The silence of the night was only interrupted by the buzzing of the insects, and also them sipping tea, as Naruto watched one of the insects fly on the water surface. Eventually it set itself down, gliding on top of the water. Huh, they make it look so easy, he said. Fu glanced towards the insect, as she narrowed her eyes. She quickly got to her feet. That's it! Naruto blinked in surprise, as Fu placed on the cup. What's it? Naruto asked. However, Fu was already gone, grabbing a few senbon as she left them by the pond's edge. She grabbed 8 in total, as she secured them to her fingertips. As Naruto watched as she placed them down the water slowly, before she stand on her hands. But then she fell in. She dragged herself back up to the surface. And what was that supposed to accomplish? Fu glared at him a bit. And taking inspiration from the insects. Naruto blinked as he looked at her. They spread their mass out between their limbs, so they can use the surface tension of the water to stay afloat. I'm doing the same thing, but instead of using too much chakra and losing control, I'm splitting it 4 ways in each hand. As I gain control, I can slowly take away the senbon until it's just one remaining. She seemed incredibly pleased by that, as Naruto was impressed by her shortcut. Time skip the next morning. So, How is little Brass doing? Asked Tsunade, as she saw a drenched Fu standing there with Naruto handing her a cup of tea. She expected that. Good morning, Tsunade-sama. Tea, said Naruto. Tsunade snatched the tea from him and downed it in one drink. She didn't even care what it was. Still unflattable, as ever, Brad, she said. I don't know what you mean, he said to her. Tsunade grumbled something under her breath. Kids their age should hear what she said. So, how goes the exercise? Completed yet, she asked, looking at Fu. Fu played with that senmon between her fingers, with a smirk on her face. I still have a day to do this. There's plenty of time, you will see. Tsunade huffed as she simply walked off. When she was gone, Naruto turned back to Fu. So how far have you actually gotten? Fu slumped down. I'm down to 3 senmon for each hand. Her tone sounded dejected, but Naruto patted her on the back. That's great. I'm sure that you get it done before tomorrow. Fu nodded, as a determined look came on her face. Time skip. It was the next morning, and rain was falling. As the droplets fell on the pond, as the four of them were standing there, Tsunade looked irritable, as her clothes were dampened. Despite Shizune doing her best with the umbrella, Naruto and Fu on the other hand, well, rain was something that bothered them. In fact, if anything, rain brought them some good memories. What are you smiling at? Said Tsunade as she looked at Naruto. Oh, nothing, he said. Tsunade growled as everyone's attention turned back to Fu, who looked rather nervous. Alright, Brad, let's get this over with. I want to get going already. Fu frowned as she tried not to let the discouragement get to her. She walked towards the pond, senmon on her index finger as she flipped, as she landed on a perfect handstand. Naruto's eyes narrowed as he saw her wobbling a bit, but Fu's face scrunched up as she focused. She wasn't going to fall. As he released a soft smile, after 30 seconds, Fu flipped back to her feet, as she was about to fall as Naruto caught her, already out in the water surface as well. That put a lot of strain on her body. She managed to look at Tsunade, but Tsunade was frowning. What they didn't know was how surprised Tsunade was at the girl's accomplishment. She never thought someone would be able to complete a controlled exercise so young. Well, a deal's a deal, said Tsunade. Full eyes lit up. So get lost. You said we wouldn't have to deal with you ever again. Both kids' face immediately fell, as Naruto's face twisted into a mass of confusion. What do you mean? She did it, didn't she? Tsunade smirked as she picked up the scroll that Fu left on the ground while she trained. Sorry, the exercise was to get to that point and balance on her feet. You can't hold her in a technicality like that. If you gave her another day, she would easily get it. Tsunade simply smirked as she tucked the scroll away, her other hand on her hip. Sorry kid, a bet's a bet. With that she turned and started to walk away. She didn't get very far as Naruto appeared in front of her, blocking her path. Tsunade continued to walk. Listen kid, a deal's a deal. You have to leave us alone now, so beat it. Naruto stood firm as he planted Shakijo into the wet ground. Fine, how about the new bet? Tsunade just glared at him. A part of her wanted to get rid of him and just move on, but a bigger part of her just couldn't ignore a challenge. Tsunade wasn't one to turn down a bet. You make me move from the circle. He drew a small circle around him, about 2 feet radius. And we not only leave you alone, but I give you this. As he held out the staff, Fu's eyes widened. And what the hell would I do with a Shakijo? I'm not a monk. Not just Shakijo, the sage of 6 paths Shakijo. Tsunade scoffed. Didn't believe a brat like this had something so valuable. As if, brat, do you really expect me to believe you own something so valuable? Naruto twirled the staff in his hand. What do you really got to lose? Tsunade gritted her teeth. Don't test me, kid. I could really hurt you. Naruto maintained his smirk to rile her up. Then you have nothing to worry about, right? 5 minutes. If you can't knock me out of the circle, 5 minutes. Then you take Fu on as a student. Tsunade grumbled. The part of her that enjoyed gambling was screaming to her to accept the challenge. If that was real the sage of 6 paths staff, that could pay off all of her debts. You know what kid, I think knocking some sense into you. It's a good idea after all. Naruto smirked, but inside he breathed a sigh of relief. He wasn't sure that ploy would work. You can try, Bachan. You can try, he said. You know, Brett, said Tsunade as her body shifted into a fighting stance. You know exactly who I am, and yet you're still gonna do this. She didn't think the kid was going to be a challenge, but after all this time, her body was still conditioned to be a kunoichi. I'll do anything to protect the dreams of people I care about. Tsunade scoffed and she held up a single hand, pointing her finger to the sky as she smirked. Your little honorable ideals aren't gonna do you any good. It's only gonna take one finger for me to deal with you. Naruto narrowed his eyes, but he didn't say a single word. One finger, brat, she said, as she slammed her finger into the ground. The ground cracked and exploded upwards as the smoke came up around Naruto. Tsunade smirked, waiting for the results. When the smoke cleared away, none of the rocks had entered the circle. Tsunade thought it was just a fluke. Despite not being a kunoichi for over years now, she was surprisingly fast as her hand shot forward, laced with chakra. Both Fu and Shizune's eyes widened as a shockwave blew past them. But Naruto did not move. Tsunade was confused. The ear pressure behind that should have sent him flying away. But it was like there was an invisible barrier there. Well, you do have some tricks then. Tsunade stepped forward as he still remained quiet. Right, that's it, kid. You really need to learn your place. She lifted her hand as Naruto's eyes widened because her hand was flooded with so much power. Boom! She slammed her fist down. Naruto only had seconds to react as he flooded the ground with his own chakra, as he hardened the ground beneath him as much as physically possible. But he couldn't do that and protect himself at the same time, so he got pelted by a few rocks, but he still did not get knocked out. When the smoke cleared, the street was in shambles. A few windows around were broken. Shizune groaned at new loan they will have to take out. Well, that is if Tsunade-sama doesn't skip town. That is more likely. As there was a few rips and tears in his robes, something that irked Naruto, seeing that he went through war and they never took damage. But he was mostly unharmed. Tsunade was worried at first, thinking that she might have gone too far with that last attack. But there was not even a single harm on the boy. And that circular arrow was fine same way, as she realized she only had another minute to remove him. She had enough as she moved forward to flick him in the forehead. She figured that strange headband on his forehead would protect him. She underestimated him though due to his size and age, so she didn't put the power that she needed to. That was why she was surprised when he ducked under her arm. But her other arm quickly came down to grab him. But Naruto twisted Shakijo to block her. Tsunade smashed her fist into the staff, but it didn't even creak, as she realized all the force of her punch just vanished the moment she touched the staff. As Naruto raised his hand and placed it right towards her stomach. As his hand placed in her stomach firmly, she looked down at him. Almighty push. Tsunade was caught completely off guard as a gravitational force slammed into her. No time to flip or recover as she was caught completely off guard and aware as she broke through a wall. There was dead quiet in the street. Shizune was shocked and also worried. She had never seen her master challenged before, whether it was from attackers or injuries to heal. To see the woman countered and even blown back, that was surprising. She knew that Tsunade was powerful, but she felt the power in that attack as she turned towards a hole in the wall. But a tightly clenched fist emerged from the rubble. All the rocks exploded outwards, revealing a mad, glowing Tsunade. Her head was down her hair, was covering her face, but you could see that grin on her face. She took a step forward as the entire ground cracked underneath her. Alright, brat, you want to play? As she cracked her knuckles. Then, let's play. As Naruto gulped a bit, she took another step forward only for a buzzer to reach her ears. Tsunade slowly turned her head to see Fu holding up a white timer. As the time was up, she then turned back Naruto who still sat at the ring. Her shoulders slumped down. Shizune and Naruto and Fu released a sigh of relief. I can't believe it's Tsunade as she dropped to her knees. Shizune rushed over, but Tsunade brushed her off as she got back up. She walked back over to where Fu had gone to congratulate Naruto as she stopped in front of them. She lifted up her face as you could see that she was restraining her emotions. You'll be ready to leave in 10 minutes. And with nothing more, she walked towards the hotel. Shizune quickly rushed after her as Naruto and Fu watched her form retreat. Fu quickly turned back. Thank you, Naruto. You didn't have to do that for me. It's no problem, Fu. No. Not really, Naruto. You would have sacrificed your Shakijo. I know how much that means to you. She looked down. I never had someone that cared about me like you do. I wanted to know how much I appreciate it. Before anything could happen, Fu quickly moved as she kissed him on the cheek, as her face was immediately pink. Naruto just stood there, dazed and confused. I'm sorry, I don't know if that was any good. I mean, Naruto cut her off as he wrapped his arm around her shoulder. It's alright, Fu. Thank you for that, he said. You're my friend, and you will always be. Fu gave him a small smile as Naruto's smile widened. Now come on, we better go and get our things if we want to catch up to Tsunade. Fu nodded as they walked off. As Fu didn't notice, Naruto put a hand to his cheek, where she kissed him. A confused look on his face, and he looked slightly worried. Time skip. Tsunade was waiting for them, as she didn't run off. As she saw them coming, she simply started to walk off, as he catch up to follow her. As they traveled, as there was silence around them, awkward silence. After about an hour, she finally stopped, as she turned to face the two kids. Right, if I'm going to be training you brats, then I have certain rules. Wait, I thought you were only training fools like Naruto. Oh? I missed out the chance to put you through my training. No chance, she said. Naruto gulped. What did she had planned? Oh, right. Rule number 1, my word is law. You will follow all instructions from me, like they were from Kami-sama herself. Rule number 2, you're not done until I say you are. I don't care if you run until you think your legs had been dipped in acid. If I told you not to stop, you don't stop. As the two remain silent and just listen. Rule number 3. Shizune is my right hand. If I'm unavailable, Shizune word is law. She's been my assistant for longer than you guys have been alive, so treat her with respect. Shizune smiled weakly as she held Tauntaun closer to her chest. Rule number 4. Try to wake me up after I've been drinking, and I will come up with a very creative way to injure you. As a medic, and I know plenty. Rule number 5. You pulled your own weight. I'm not paying for your food or anything else. If you want something, you earn it your own self. Rule number 6. I get a rematch whenever I want. If you don't agree to the rules or follow the letter, I will teach you nothing. There was silence. Both Naruto and Fu simply nodded. Tsunade's grin became even more eviler as he leaned closer. Now, from today on you'll be calling me Tsunade Sensei. Fu gulped as well as she wondered if going after the legendary medic was a good idea after all. Yes, Tsunade Sensei, they said. Good. Let's go. Naruto and Fu looked at each other before going after her. Time skip. A week had passed since Tsunade take them on as her apprentice. Naruto felt like she was out to get him, yes. This was no normal training, it was brutal. She was worse than a slave driver, as she was trying to kill them at some times. And she did it all with a smile on her face, saying that it was training. At first it was just challenging. What would have been gruesome for a normal person was shrugged off by the two Jinjulkis after a good night rest. Tsunade realized their training sessions weren't working at their limits, so she upped the pace. Naruto thought that this training would have killed most people by now. Their respecting healing factors wasn't bringing them back to normal by morning now. The first thing they were told to do was to complete the exercise that Fu had set back there, as it took for another day to complete it. On the other hand, Naruto had simply took the Senbon and stood on it without any hassle. Chakra control came so easy to him, he didn't have the hassle at all. Once Tsunade got over her quick shock, she thought about the way she could take advantage of his quick learning. But nothing but the advance of the advance could make Naruto actually focus. It actually made her wonder what kind of hellish training he was put through to make him get to this level. At his age, she was only a tuning level when it comes to controlling her chakra. Currently, the both of them were lying on their beds, as they couldn't move their limbs without feeling tremendous pain. At first, Naruto thought that she was trying to mobilize them, well, to get her escape, but she could sense her drinking at the bar downstairs, probably laughing at their misery. Shizune was down there as well, trying to keep her master calm from picking a fight with anyone. Shizune was the only bright thing along with their training, as Shizune would always be there to offer water or to heal them. He almost wished that he had met her sooner, as he started to think of her as an older sister. It made his mind wander towards Ayam, and remember how she used to be, and that messed up his mood entirely. But in the past week, his speed had increased a lot, yes, and his chakra control became even more perfect and refined. And there was some good reading material. So far, they wasn't taught any medical ninjutsu. Tsunade refused to teach them until they were ready, as she was giving them the full medic training. They had to learn how to dodge first. As she said, it doesn't matter how good you are at healing if you're the first in the squad to be taken down. Her way of dodging was throwing a large ball towards them with tremendous speed. Using his standard-driven path meant that he got no dinner because that was violating the rules. But she was only doing that to take advantage of him and put him through more pain. He lay on his bed thinking about the past week, also a few other things on his mind. But just as he was about to get up and get some water, he felt his consciousness being slipped away. Naruto blinked in surprise as he looked up at the 5 cage in front of him, as he wondered what drew him into the seal. As he realized the sandbag was looking at him, it was awake. Shikaku was making his usual exciting noise in the background. Manatabi and the fox was asleep, but he felt like the fox was pretending. The Yanbai was just leaned up against the cell. Human, explain what happened here, and why am I not with my host? Naruto was surprised at the feminine tone to the Sanbai voice. He expected it to be male. What do you remember? Said Naruto. The Sanbai was surprised at him speaking, without any fear. Her eye narrowed looking around. None of the other Biju seemed to be in panic or fear. First, explain who I am. This is not the Shihin Sekai, and yet there are 5 of us here. Naruto nodded. You are within me, as well as Manatabi, Shikaku, Son Goku, and the Kyuubi. The Sanbai was now even more confused, for this human to know their name, except for the Kyuubi, and for him to contain them all. As she knew the malice and strength of the Kyuubi, he would simply rip apart a normal human, so how could he do this? How are you able to do this without being torn apart? Naruto opened his eyes. The Biju gasped as she came closer, looking with her one good eye. Father's eyes? She leaned back, as it has been so long since she saw her siblings. She could also sense the presence of Komi. You are certainly an interesting human. Very well. I'll tell you what I know. I remember being within my former container, Yagra. He only used my chakra, briefly, so I only caught glimpses of the outside world. I remember him being the Mizukage in a few battles after that. Then one day I saw a pair of Sharingan eyes, and then I woke up here. The Kyuubi growled. He was definitely not asleep, as he heard the Sharingan. Now explain what happened and why I'm here. As Naruto nodded, he decided to explain, as he didn't want a bad relationship with his Sanbai, like the Kyuubi. I don't know how long you were like that in Yagra, but a few weeks ago I defeated him, and absorbed all the chakra from his body, including you. When you first appeared here, you had a Sharingan in your eye, and you were in an uncontrollable rage. When I pushed chakra in the cell to strengthen it from you breaking it, the Sharingan disappeared and you fell unconscious. The turtle was controlled, the Kyuubi said, as they turned towards him. He didn't even bother opening his eyes, as he then went silent. I fear the fox is correct. It sounds like I was being controlled. Wait, if you were controlled, does that mean Yagra was being controlled as well? The Sanbai seemed thoughtful, before shaking her large head. I do not know, human. I suppose it's possible though, but for what purpose I cannot say. As Naruto nodded at that, in the memories he didn't see Yagra being controlled. Human. As Naruto looked up, I will tell you the same thing I told my previous container. Simply leave me be, and you may use my chakra as you wish. As the turtle seemed resigned to just let him be. No, said Naruto. The Sanbai looked shocked. What do you mean, no? I mean, I refuse to simply ignore you and use your chakra like that. I will tell you what I've told your brothers and sisters. As he heard the Kyuubi growl, I wish to help baby Jews, to free them from their hatred. He smiled softly. How can I ever come to understand you if I don't know you? The Sanbai looked at him. Very well. The others seem to trust you, so I will do the same. You may try to understand me if you wish, but I don't know what you expect to happen. What is your name, human? My name is Naruto Uzumaki, he said. The Sanbai looked at him. My given name is Aisabu. As Naruto smiled brightening at that, he already heard her name from the others talking about her, but he was good to hear from her herself. Pathetic to give your name away so easily. You're all worse than scum. Aisabu's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. The Kyuubi was, well, far more menacing and more powerful, and she wouldn't oppose him. There's no weakness in trusting others, Kyuubi. It is only by protecting those bonds we forge is the way we can get truly stronger. The fox simply huffed as he turned his head away. You're foolish and naive. Where was your strength when that pathetic girl died in front of you? As Naruto looked at the fox, who simply glared back. You will come to understand in time. The only thing that matters is power, and one's own power is the only thing you can rely on. Time will reveal that soon enough for you, as it did for me in this world. You're wrong, said Naruto. The fox snorted at him. And one day we will understand each other, for you to realize that. The fox closed his eyes completely and snorted, dismissing Naruto. As Naruto turned back, it was nice to meet you, Aisabu. It was certainly interesting meeting you, Uzumaki, said Aisabu, as Naruto nodded as he vanished from the seal. Naruto opened his eyes, they are banging on the door, as he looked through the blinds to see morning light. Fu sighed as she got up as well. As he got ready, they opened the door. Tsunade was standing there with a ball in her hand and a sick grin on her face. Time skip. Make sure your chakra flow is even as possible, Tsunade said, as she looked over Naruto's shoulder, as his hands were glowing green, as there was a fish lying on a table in front of him. There was a scroll with many kanji on it that was underneath the fish. It was to help medic ninjas spread their chakra across evenly. The animal itself was pumped with many chemicals to simulate a near-death experience that the medic had to bring the fish out of. Good enough I suppose, said Tsunade. She was glad that he was looking at her, because she was impressed that he had got it so quickly. Its reserves were so massive. It was a surprising effect to learn that he could control them so well. She glanced towards Fu, her hand flickering with faint green chakra. You can't have your chakra so erratic as it leaves your body. You won't be able to control it once it enters the patient. Fu grunted as she focused on flowing the chakra out smoothly. Gah! Fu threw her hand up in the air as she looked at the fish that was now smoking. What am I doing wrong? It wasn't the first fish that Fu had burned, but Tsunade thought it was just some strange fluke. And honestly, she didn't know why this was happening, as the girl had shown, well, quick, fast learning curves, and she never saw the mystic palm technique doing something like this before. Fu chakra must be inherent, corrosive. That mean. So when were you going to tell me you were Jinchuriki? Fu eye widened in shock, as it caught her off guard completely. But Tsunade also noticed that Naruto twitched a bit. That caught her off guard. What? Said Fu. Who do you think you're talking to? There's only 9 people in the world that can produce corrosive chakra as yours without having any internal damage. Tsunade rolled her eyes in annoyance. She was the best medic in the world. Do you really think she wouldn't find out? Huh, you caught us. Fool, is it Jinjulti of anatomy? Tsunade glanced towards the girl who was looking down with a frown in her face. This was very serious, as Jinjulti out of their village. Last she knew, the Nadabi was being held by Taki, long-term allies of Konoha. While her care for her village has been lenient over the events, she still loved a part of her home, and she knew that if they found out that the Jinjulti was in other care, that would cause war. The obvious thing to do was to take Fu back to Taki. Yet as she looked at the girl, she couldn't bring herself to do it. Jinjulkis live horrible life. The Mizukage and the Kumo Jinjulkis being exceptions. If Fu left her village, it was obvious for good reasons. Naruto must have something to do with it. She could only feel sorry for the poor kid that the 4th Kage had stuck the Kyuubi in before he died, whoever it was. Jiraiya was too depressed when he delivered the news of Hokage's death for her to get a name. Fu was worried. She knew that Naruto would come to her aid and she can protect herself to a degree, but this was still Tsunade. Well, that is why you keep on killing the damn fish. Fu was confused and surprised. That was not what she expected. What you need to do is learn to separate the bulk chakra from yours. Otherwise, you keep on injecting that poisonous stuff into them. I'm sure you'll get it. We just need to up your training a bit. Fu looked confused. As she turned towards Naruto, he gave her a smile though. As a small smile came back on her face. Perhaps it wasn't so bad for her to find out. But guys, be in subscribe right here. For what's the next part, to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also stay tuned for the rest of what is coming your way. I'm going to be posting a new episode over in Anime King and Anime King 3. All links will be down in the description for the other channels if you want to check it out and enjoy for yourself, guys. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. Thank you for all of your help and your support. And yeah, without further ado, I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.